Okay, so just to get a quick check, did anybody heard about layouts so far? Okay, that's not that bad actually. So I'll try to do a quick presentation of just for you to understand what we are talking about. You can interrupt me whenever you like. So we have a bit of a issue with how to simply explain this thing. So there are many sentences that we try to prepare. Let's say that this is one of them. So what Layouts does is it renders web pages based on a layout and block configuration which has an interface where you can manage it. So, by non-technical personnel, like JF editors, for example. And from a architectural point of view, not from architecture, it's more like how layouts fits in the stack. Is that it's based on Symfony? That's why we are on Symfony track. It's a Symfony full stack application. It could be used independently by itself, and this is what we will do on this workshop. But it can also be integrated with another Symfony full stack application. And then it has these what's so-called backends. So you have, for example, a CMS as a backend. It could be a product information management as a backend. It could be an e-commerce platform. It could be actually whatever you have as an information source. And then you use that information in the blocks, and then it gets rendered. It could be rendered via Twig, but we also have some use cases where you actually render JSON and then the page is constructed, for example, with Vue.js or React. Any questions about it? Is this kind of clear on a very, very high level? No questions? Okay. So, you know this hashtag? What does it mean? Best friends forever? So yeah, it's best friends forever, but also someone coined expression backend for frontend, which means that we, in the architecture, we have a backend system which is purely backend. It's only accessible via an API, and then you have a backend which is just rendering the front end. This is kind of let's say, a parallel thing to the, let's say, very cool technologies like React, where you have a React or Vue or whatever framework, and then you just get the data via REST API. So what we are trying to do is we want to have these things in the server, on the server, right? Not just on the client. I know it's not super modern and super cool, but we are all mostly PHP developers here, I think. So this is our way. So, and this is what I have coined as a new hashtag, is H for H, head for headless, which means that you have a headless system as a backend, and then what we are a head for that headless. Okay? Does it make sense? Okay. So it's not a BFF. We could be a BFF, but let's say we are H for H. So as an integration point, currently we are, of course, coming from an easy platform, CMS. I don't know how many of you know Easy, heard about Easy. Okay, a couple of, no? So it's a very old, actually, open source project dating from 1999. But they had, in the last decade, they had a big rewrite to Symfony as a framework. And we are using that for 15 years. So we are coming from that, and we built layouts for the projects that we use with Easy, but we build layouts detached from Easy, so it's not directly bound, and we can use it separately. And this is a workshop where I will show you something else. And we also did a proof of concept implementation with Sylius e-commerce. How many of you know Sylius? Also, some of you don't. So it's again a Symfony-based e-commerce solution. It's for example, I would say it's a kind of a competition to Magento, although that's very hard to do, to be competition to Magento, but still they are now a valid competitor. And what we also did, and this is what we are showing today, is a Contentful CMS integration. Who knows about Contentful? Even less. So Contentful is a purely headless CMS living in the cloud. I will show you the interface so you will see. So it's what you have is only a REST API. You manage content, but you don't have the BFF, or you don't have a React in front, etc. We also did some custom ones. We did a project where there was a REST API to some sort of information source, and we hooked up into that. One of our partners did they have a Solar-based storage of products coming from a different PIM systems. And then what they did is they did an integration to fetch the products from that Solar instance. So now I will tell you a few things which are very, 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 very simple, because this is what typical website developers should know. The only thing is that you probably name it differently. So for example, we have something which we called a layout type. And layout type is basically what it is just a Twig template with a configuration, and in the Twig template we define zones. So maybe in some other company this would be called different, but the concept is the same. So it's a layout type and a placeholder for blocks, which we call the zone. And then when you create a layout, you instantiate it from the layout type, and then you add blocks to it, to the zones. And then you have blocks adding to the main zone, to the left, right, whatever. This again is very simple. People will call not blocks, maybe widgets, maybe components. I don't know. You probably have some other word to describe something like a block. And then what we have, and this is where the backend integrations come, is that we have a block items inside of the blocks. And these block items are on a layers level, they are abstracted. So they contain the original, let's say, object coming from the backend, but it's abstracted, so you can actually even mix different backend sources and combine a list of a block with a list of block items which are coming from different backends. We also have something which, of course, is very useful, is the block views. Again, that's purely just a Twig template which renders the blocks. So you can choose which template will render the block. We also have block item view, which are, again, just Twig templates. I will come to that later. We have a special kind of block. Of course, people want columns and things like that, so we have container blocks. So they are basically just special blocks with placeholders for other blocks. Okay, so this was very simple. Do you have any questions? I mean, that should be quite, for anyone who ever did any website, this is very typical, okay? So now we can come to a bit older diagram, but it's still valid. So it's about how do you reuse the same blocks across the site. And this is what we call we call this linking of shared zones. So you have a shared layout where you put blocks, and then you go to, for example, layout news, and then you link the zone from the header to the shared layout header, and then do that for every layout. And then what you do, what the point is that you manage the blocks in the header only in one place, and it could be used in 50 layouts, right? And then the same thing can be used for footer, for pre-footers. It could be used for sidebars, left columns, right columns, whatever. Okay? Any questions here? Okay, let's go further. Now we are getting to a bit more serious stuff. So we have collections and queries. So remember, we had block items. So actually the block, the collection of block items, we call it. So block has a collection of block items. Collection of block items could be filled either manually or dynamically. And if it's done dynamically, then you choose a query which is fetching the data from the backend system. So some blocks have a collection, not all. For example, a title block doesn't have a collection, but a grid block has a collection. A collection is a set of block items, could be manual or dynamic. And we use a predefined query, which is just a piece of PHP code that fetches items. And what is even more interesting, when you fetch the items dynamically, you can still manually place blocks inside of a dynamic list. So for example, you have 5 latest news, but then you want some news to be the first manually. Or you have a gallery of images, but then you want, that's a typical feature for some clients, is to place every 5th image is an ad, for example. These kind of use cases. So in reality, or how this looks like is that on top you have something that you will see soon is the interface of layouts and the right column for parameters of the block. And then this is rendered on front side, and it looks like on the bottom. This is a grid block. So the point here, the very important thing here with layouts is that we show the grid, we show the layout in a conceptual view, and we actually don't care much about what kind of CSS is out there. CSS and JavaScript, everything is done like in any other Symfony application. You could use Webpack, you could use Encore, whatever. You render whatever you do. What we just do is we render twig templates. So it doesn't matter for us how this looks on the front side. What we do have is this design button, I will show it also later, which kind of instructs the front end with some parameters. For example, I want a large or small margin, or I want just left or blue background color, right? So this is then used by the twig template or to render the right CSS class, etc. And now we are coming to the most powerful part of layouts, and this is very, very, we would say, unique feature among these kind of tools, because most of the tools is focused on what we have seen so far. So how do you manage blocks on some landing page or on a home page? But when we were building this, we were interested in how will you manage the layouts of the whole site, which includes also maybe 10,000 articles, or it includes also a checkout process in the shop. So what is behind that? So a layout needs to be somehow connected to the URL, and this is what we call a mapping. Actually, a set of URLs. You can map a layout to one URL or a set of URLs. And the user of the layouts, the site builder persona, creates this mapping, and we say that he targets a specific URL. And mappings can have additional conditions that should be matched. And these conditions could be whatever you have in the moment of the request. So it could be time, it could be content type coming from the backend, it could be geolocation, it could be user group, it could be device type. Whatever you have, you can condition the mapping. You can also use the context of the page to show specific information. So for example, if you're building a layout for an article, you can use the context of the page to show the fields from the backend. If you know, I will show you later, it will make more sense. So this is how it works. What's the process? So you get a request, it goes to a Symfony controller. There is always a Symfony controller. So whatever you have, you could have your custom controllers. And then usually a controller renders a twig to show the output. So this is, as we all know, the standard MVC pattern. So what happens here is that with one line at the beginning of the twig, where we actually inject our layouts, let's say it like that, we kind of detour from the twig and we go to layouts which try to find, based on the targeted URL, which is of course known because we have a request, we are trying to find, based on the target and additional conditions, which layout fits the first. And once you find that one, then you actually render it and you send the response. Do you see any question here? Any kind of question mark? No? So what happens with what you rendered in Twig? Because we kind of took over from here, right? So what happens is that it is processed, but we kind of override it, and then when we render the layout, we send the response from our layout, not from the original Twig, right? But we have blocks that can reuse the blocks rendered in Twig. So you could actually construct reuse things from the Twig inside the layouts and mix them with other blocks. Now, that's a bit more advanced. That's not a simple thing to understand, but gives a lot of possibilities. One of quite important possibility is that you can very easily just switch the whole thing. You just, instead of, on the first thing, instead of extending the layout module, you just extend your base Twig template, and all of this is very easily ignored. Okay? Any questions here? No questions. Come on, I like questions. So, what happened here? So regarding, a bit more detailed into architecture. This is like the part of what is layouts in terms of components. So we have the backend integrations, which of course can be custom. We have, built-in blocks and queries and block views and layout templates, etc. And then you can customize your block views, etc., etc. And on top of that is CSS and JavaScript, which is something that it's not under our domain. Okay, any questions here? No questions. Okay. So we were talking a lot about this, but the main thing is why would we why would we create such a product? What's the differentiation between maybe some other similar tools? So this is what we think are the differences. So you have a lot of these even cloud services that offer a lot of these page building capabilities. You have, the Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, all these things, which are really great, except that they are, cloud. based. So it's very hard or very difficult to customize, integrate, etc., etc. So we are coming from custom and complex projects. So what we have built is trying to do a product that is usable in these kind of more complex situations. The other difference is that the idea is to control all website pages, which is used by implemented with these mappings. It's not WYSIWYG from an interface point of view. We are actually now building a preview module, but that's another story. And it's backend agnostic, meaning we can have different backends. And it could be an integration point for different backends. We have so far more than 30 sites in production, and from a performance point of view, it's not huge, but it's also not small. A lot of different use cases. So what are the use cases for this product? It's not simple sites, right? So it's about how can you manage and maintain a bigger site to offer more functionality to the super editors and maintainers to do some things without going to the code. That's the main point. And then maybe if there is a site with a lot of sub-sites where we need to create a lot of sub-sites or things quicker. If you have one point where you merge different information for multiple backends, and one thing is also enforcing a design system. So, do you know what a design system is? Okay, we will skip that. What is happening here? Okay, so let's quickly. We are soon going to be to do some work, but talking about the integration with Contentful. So we have a Symfony version 4. We have Layouts version 1, which is released a month ago. We have a Symfony CMF routing, so for slugs. And we have a Contentful integration. They have a PHP SDK, so we use that to integrate. What we do is we have a table in our local database that is used for slugs, but the same table is also used for caching the objects we get from Contentful, because it's somewhere in the cloud. It has a API limit, so we don't want to go for each request to Contentful. So we cache those objects locally, and there's also a webhook route, so that when something changes in Contentful calls the webhook on our side to invalidate the cache and fetch the object again. That was most of my slides, so now we can try to do something, not just talk. Any questions at this point? No? Okay, let's do something. So what I would suggest now, do you have your virtual machines ready? Anyone who would like to do this but doesn't have a virtual machine? No? Okay. So what you should do is go to the virtual machine and then go to the folder of this workshop. I did some changes, so it's easier just to remove the composer log, do a git pull. Should be quick, not so many changes. And then do a composer install just in case. So I will do that as well. So let's see. Maybe do one other. So let's try to do something. Is it too small, or should I? It's better. So let's try to find this thingy. Of course, I will have a lot of problems with the keyboard. Mine will probably be. I don't have it, so let's. up to date. I'm up to date, but you will probably not be up to date. And then do a composer install. This will take some time. You will probably get a bit of some code, fresh code, and also maybe a couple of these fresh Symfony 4.3.4. Yes. Was that released, Nicholas, recently? 4.3.4?
Just the day after the build control.
Of course. I noticed that yesterday that there was a small change in the. Yeah. Okay, so that should be it. So let's continue. So let's see. So what I will first show you is a couple of scripts. So first is the Contentful delivery info. I also need to show you a bit of Contentful before we start. So this is just showing that there is a configured space in the Contentful. So we have a configured one Contentful installation, and I need to show you this. You got this on the. You got this. Not that one. Huh. I need to find the right one. Just a second. Okay. We also run a Web Summer Camp website on something like this. So you are all hooked into this instance. So the configuration that we have. So let's just quickly check in PHP Storm. If we go to configuration, no, yes. Just to reduce the number of. So this is the configuration. We have a database, and we also have this space ID and access tokens to Contentful. And you all have the same, okay? So this is how it looks when you enter Contentful. So Contentful has a really nice interface, but again, it's not a super complex in terms of features. It has content types, so you can change, for example, this is a demo content from Contentful, so they have a content type category, course, lessons, and stuff like that. So it's about 35, they call that entries. I will not go much into this, just that you see what I'm talking about. So, okay, going back to the other thing. So what you would need to do is run the Contentful sync command. So it's not required to do that. What happens is that as soon as someone requests an object from Contentful, we will go to the API, fetch the object, cache it, and show it. But sometimes it helps to just sync all objects to the local machine all at once. So you can do that, and you will see something like this. So this is just a remote entry synced locally. I don't know if did it happen or not, but that's what you should see. So this is those are two scripts that I have. So now you will finally do some work in layouts, and you will see how it looks. So what we will do now is we will try to do a home page for our site. So let's go into the machine back. So I have an interface. Let's just show you first how do I log out? User log out. Let's log out. Yeah. No. Let's try to kill everything and open again. This is what you do in IT. So what we will, I will show you the URL. So what I did, of course, is I did run, going back a bit, I did a server run, of course, if you want to try something. And then you get this URL, which is the local host. And I will get something because I forgot to clear my database, but you will forgive me that. So if I now go to ng-layouts/admin, so this is the URL, ng-layouts/admin, and then I have a super secure username and password, which is admin and admin. Okay. And then you will get into the layouts backend or interface. Of course, the password is in the configuration. What was it? Config app. I think it's in app YAML. No, not in app. Is security. Okay. So you have. No, actually, it's in sorry. It's in should be in the environment. Yes. So we have a place for the password. This is very simple. Of course, in your Symfony application, you would have a different security setup. This is just for this demo. So let's go back to the interface. So this interface is purely Symfony-based interface. It uses Symfony forms, etc. It can be integrated in other Symfony applications, like we did with Easy. Maybe I will have time to show you in the end. What we have and what we mentioned so far, we have layouts, and we have shared layouts, and we have mapping. So let's start with layouts. So what I will do now, I already have some stuff. You will have empty. We will not have anything. So let's try to do a new homepage. What you first get is you need to name it, of course. Name it whatever you like. I will do home number 2. What you need to also is to choose the layout type. If you remember, we mentioned layout types with different zones. This is basically a twig template, and what I will choose just for the fun the layout 6. You can choose whatever you like, except it will be good to not choose layout 1, and I will explain later. So choose any except layout 1. So when you create this, you will get something like this, an interface for managing layouts and blocks, and it's empty. You can go here and then place some blocks. I will take a title block and place it here, let's say here. And this is a title, and I can name it, this is my demo. My demo. Of course, the epsilon is not where it should be. You have a block, and then what you can do is, just a second, let me do one thing because I forgot to do that. Just a second. I think I'm on a this I don't need anymore, so let's do it like this. So let's see what happens now. probably crash or something. I don't want to show you too much in advance. So what we have here is we have some parameters, like for example, this is a parameter for the template, heading, is it heading 1, 2, or 3? Of course, you have like things like CSS class, CSS ID, although it's not recommended that you use that very often, but yeah, sometimes they help. What we will also do is, for example, we will make a grid and place it here. And then the grid has similar parameters. What it does, it has a view type, so basically what template should be rendered, some additional parameters, etc. And then it has the content part. So content means the information, what we want to show. And then if you remember, we had manual and dynamic collections. So this one will be the manual one, which means that I will add items myself. So if I go to add items, what happens is that I open a new component called the content browser. And this one is connected to Contentful, actually. So if you remember, if we go back to see this, and you can see that I have something like, let's say, I think it's hello. So I have 3 things hello. If I go here, and I could find them here, but you can also search. And I search, I actually do the same search. I get these 3 things from Contentful. And I see the content type here from Contentful. And then I just pick this up, 2 of those, for example. And now they are in my grid. And I can, change the order, drag and drop. I can also, these are several more advanced options, but I can even have a different template rendered for each item and things like that. And okay, this is my homepage for now. It's very, 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 very simple, but this is just for the demo. I will publish this layout. Okay. Let me go back to my slides. So we did this, creating a layout. Okay. Now what we will do is create a mapping for the homepage route. So we want this layout to be shown on the slash URL, which is the homepage route. And we already have in typical Symfony full stack application, you typically have a simple controller which has a homepage route annotated. Okay, we can also show. You can find it in somewhere here in the source controller, homepage controller, and you see it's annotated with homepage to this URL. Okay, so first thing that I will do is I will quickly remove these things, which I will later do, because this is what we need to do from scratch. So let's do it again. So what I am doing is now is I'm adding a new mapping, and I need to select the layout. So I will select my number 2, and then what I will do is I will target the root target. And remember, targets are just kind of abstractions of the URL. So in this case, you can, of course, go directly to the request URI, or you can do something specific to Contentful, which I will show later, etc. What we will do now is we just add the root target and write homepage. We will not have any additional conditions, and then we save this. So what happened on the front side? Let's check. And this is our beautiful new site. It's completely accessibility compliant. There's nothing there, 2 links. It's probably very responsive. It's very fast as well. Okay, so as you can see here, we have 2 objects with links, and you can see the slug. It's /hello-contentful. And this is the job of the Symfony CMF component, which already created the slug. What happens when I click here? Well, actually nothing. Nothing because we don't have a controller, we don't have a layout. We will work on that. So let's go back and see the next thing. But before that, just to show you an important thing. Oops, I closed it. No, I didn't want to search that. This is what you have here. So we extended the Symfony profiler. I know that Nicholas would like that a lot. You see the resolved layout, which layout type, the version, etc. And if you click on here and open the profiler, you will get more information. You will see which twig template was used. You will see the rules and the conditions. In this case, we don't have conditions. You will also see all the information from the blocks that we use, and also which templates were used for each block. And when we click, you can see the template that was responsible for that. Okay, that was fun. So let's advance. So what we will do next is we will create a course page, which means this is a specific content type for this demo. So if we go to Contentful and I search for courses, I will get 2 courses. So Hello SDK and Hello Contentful. Okay, and they have some information. So if you click here and then you load this, you will see they have title, they have image, they have the short description, they have more descriptions, they have some more items, and in the end they have a list of related lessons. So this is something that's built as a demo. Okay, so now if what we would need to do is we need to create a layout for a course page, any course page, not a single course page, but any course page. So let's start by creating this layout. So we should go back, and then let's go to layouts, and then I have this course page already, but I will do the number 2. So let's do the course number 2, and I will select, for example, this layout type. I will do the course number 2, create the layout. I will do some kind of, let's say, a text block, just saying, this is let's say, kind of a label for course, and then I will add something specific. This is the Contentful entry field block, and I will place it here, and then what I will need to do is, there's an error. Of course there's an error. There's always an error. Because I'm on
Wrong branch.
Probably on wrong branch, yes. Yes, just a second. Try to recover. If not, I will need to pull everything. Oh, some glitch. Okay, so what I need to put here in the field identifier. So the field identifier you can find. Of course, you don't have access to this. You have only the access token, but you don't have the login for here. So this is how you do it in in Contentful, you have a content model, and then you select the course, and you see here all the attributes, and you can click on settings, and you will actually see the field ID. This is the title, and it's same for image. So we have, what's happened? Image is image. Short description is short description, and then we have all others. So I will just add the title, and then I will add more fields here. It should be an image, and maybe I will place here the short description. Then I figured out, no, this doesn't feel right, and then I will replace these two here. I don't think this one's saved. No, this was the, no. This was the short description, and this I wanted to be the image. Okay, so this is my course page. Let me check quickly so this was, yeah, title, image, and short description. So now we will publish this. So now I have a layout course number 2. So what we need to do now is we need to create to map it to the URL. So what I need to do is I create a mapping. I of course need to select for which layout. In this case, I will take the course number 2, and then I need to target the contentful space. So contentful space is like just a bucket of content that they can separate. So we have one space, then we can have more spaces, etc. So what I will do is I will add contentful space, but there is only one. It's called the example project. So in this case, if you have more contentful spaces, you can select which one. And then you do this, and then you conditioned this. I don't want to show it to all content types. I only want to do it for courses. So I select the contentful content type condition, and I can, somehow in this Chrome or whatever, it's a list, so it doesn't look very nice, but it's a list. So what I want to select is the course, which is here. So now I'm saying, okay, for every content coming from this example project, under the condition that it's a course, show me course number 2 layout. So that's what you have. Important thing is that if you have conditions or mappings that are kind of overlapping, always the first one will win. So in this case, these two are not overlapping, so it's okay. Let's go back. So if I load this again on the home page, nothing will change. But if I go to this, which should be the course, and I open this, I will get this, which is the label, the title coming from Contentful, and the image. I'm not sure what happened with the short description. I probably misspelled the identifier, so let me quickly check. I think there should be a... Yeah, I miss one letter, I think. Yes, this. Yeah. So I'll quickly fix that. And then I go back, reload. No, this, I don't want to reset the virtual machine. Okay, now I have it. So again, this is just rendering some stuff. The CSS, the visual thing, this is like in any other Symfony application you would do. So you have your CSS, Bootstrap, whatever you like, grids, etc. Okay, so let's quickly check what we did. We created a course page, we mapped it. Okay. So now I have what I want to do is I want to override a block template. I'm not satisfied with the template I've got from layouts. Oops, sorry. So let's go here and do a checkout step 1. Okay, so I will show you the difference. Maybe that's the quickest way. I should be here. It's a bit easier to show the diff. Commits. That should be. Oh, sorry, I'm on the step 1. So this is basically the diff. So I created in the app YAML, I added a configuration for a template which matches for list block definition. And then this is the template. And this template extends the, let's say, the base block from layouts. Has some macros we have, and then it iterates, etc. And we render the. This is a bit more complex twig. I'm sure that Eddie knows exactly what's happening here, but this is just an example. So what happened here is that we now have an overridden, and this is the template. It's in templates, block, list template. This is the template. And this one overrides the list. And I will show you in a minute. So now we will use this new template by setting up a header and footer. So now we are coming to the shared layout thing. So what we need to do is go to shared layouts section. Okay, I will now. You should create a layout. It doesn't matter which one again, but you should use all except the layout type number 1. So you should use whatever you like here. So it actually doesn't matter because this layout will never be rendered. It's just a storage for the shared blocks. And I will use this, I will open this header and footer that I created before. Okay, and here what I did is the following. I added, in this first zone, I added the title, demo site. That's the first thing. I also added some rich text with, back to homepage link, copy left, something like that. You don't need to do everything, but you can just create some blocks just for fun. And then we have a list block. This is now important. Let's make it from scratch, just a second. So I go here. I place it in the same zone where the title is. And then what I do is I don't want to do it manually. I want that this is rendered dynamically. So I choose the dynamic collection. And because there is only one type of query currently in the system, what I can do is I have parameters for this dynamic collection saying, okay, I want categories, for example. And I want them sorted by type, by creation, descending. And I see those two actually immediately here. And they are rendered here. So I just created a dynamic collection for all categories. And then I publish this layout. Okay, now this is the shared layout. So this will nowhere be seen unless you go to those two layouts and link this zone. So for example, I had the home number 2. So what I need to do is I need to link that shared zone. So in my case, I want to show it up here. So we have a profile is on the way. So I have this module here, which I click, and then I find this zone here. So I kind of connect that zone. It should be quite simple. So we do it again. Click here. I want to do a footer, link, go down, find the My Footer, and select. Should be quite simple for a non-technical person. You know, I know we are all developers. It would be simpler for us just to use the include twig, right? But the difference is that this can do as someone who is not a developer. That you need to be aware of that all the time. And now I linked these two shared zones, and you can see I cannot do anything here because this is not where they are. They are just linked here. And I publish my home number 2. So if I go to here to sorry, this is still not the home. So if I go back to the home, now I see the demo side. I see these two categories. I also see the footer. What I need to do, of course, I need to do the same thing for the course number 2. So in the course number 2, I also need to okay, how much time I have left? Half an hour, yeah. Okay, so let's do this quickly. So just connect the header to the header and footer. You can actually play and actually connect header to footer and footer to header if you really want. I mean, it's possible. Again, let's click here, link the zone, footer zone. Of course, you cannot change, add more blocks in this thing. What you can do is, I could actually override this here just for fun. So let's link this zone and put a header, another header in this zone. So what happens is that I have duplicate headers, but I can also unlink this. So I just say unlinking, and I will actually see my blocks again, or not. This is what I didn't test, and of course it doesn't work. Let's try again. Unlink, unlink. Okay. Okay. So I see my blocks back. Okay, when I publish this, I updated my course number 2. So if I go here and click on Hello Contentful, now I see that my home page and my course page use the same header. That was the idea, and the same footer. Okay, so this is what we did. One thing important is that if you go to the profiler and rendered blocks, you see that all of these blocks are using the Netgen Layouts standard namespace because they are coming from the layouts itself. But only this one, which we overridden, uses our template. Okay, and you can see that here. Okay, let's continue. So, well, if you remember, on the course content type, I had a list of related lessons. Okay? So what I would like to do is I want to show this on my page. I want to show all the related lessons on the course page. And that's not very trivial. That's why I created a query, a special query. And what we need to do is we need to, of course, go here and then do a checkout step 2. So what we actually did here is we created a query type. And this query type, it's not super complex. It's something that you override the typical content type handler interface. It has some things like build parameters. I need one parameter, which is the field definition identifier. Then I do, when I get values, I actually do the Contentful PHP SDK thing to fetch the data. I have the count, of course. I have the offset, and I have the get limit. And then I also have, I can't remember why I have this actually, but okay. So what the result is, and of course there is some configuration. One thing is the services. So I need to have a service definition for this thing and then tag it with Contentful references. With the layouts query type handler and then additional attribute.
You can of course use the auto wiring for this.
Yeah. Although Nicolas says that this will be a bit difficult to do.
It's solved with his tip from the last year.
Okay. Yeah, this is a bit. I'm an old guy. I'm doing Symfony 3. Sorry, kind of things before auto wiring and stuff. So, but this is good for explaining what's happening. So we have that, and then what we have is also a bit of configuration in the app YAML. So what we do here, we declare to the system that we have a Contentful references query. So what happens? Let's go back and let's see what happens. What happened in the course number 2. So I'm now opening course number 2, and I want to add a block which fetches all the related lessons and show it. So what I will do now is I will add a block, let's say whatever, a grid block. This grid block, I will say it's a dynamic collection. Of course, what you can do is you can create your custom block which does that. But sometimes it doesn't make sense to do custom blocks. You can reuse these query things. So now I have actually 2 query types in the system. Then I have this drop down. I have the standard one, Contentful search, which I used before. But now I have the Contentful references. And this Contentful references has it has, of course, the translation doesn't work yet. So I didn't add the translation for this parameter. But this is where I place the field identifier from Contentful. And because the system doesn't know how many of them there are, he just says, okay, there might be a lot of these items. Of course, I can do is I can limit this to 4. And then I will kind of visually see that there are 4 items. But the system doesn't have the context. He cannot show you because this is a layout for the course page. It's not the course page itself, right?
I don't know what the course which will be rendered is yet. So that's why there's no real content here.
Yeah, so once we publish this, and if we go to the course page, let's say this one, this is what we have. So we have those 4 lessons actually, because we limited to 4. So it looks like there might be more. But anyway, we have these 4. And again, they have the slugs. So if I click on the slug, what will happen? Nothing, because I don't have a layout, I don't have a special controller for that, etc. I need to create that if I want. Does this make sense? So I need a special kind of query to fill the grid, and then I create it to fill the grid. Okay, that was the next step. Okay, let's do the one more step. We will do as many steps as we can. We have 20 more minutes. So let's do the quickly the checkout step 3, and then I will explain what it is about. So if you remember, I had a course. Let me remember which. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It could be the course number 2. So I had a title. Actually, I had a text, but I could replace it with a title. Just a second. So I had a text, but actually I want a title. So I will show a title. No, actually I forgot this was not the use case. Just a second. This is not, doesn't matter. This is not what I want. So I have a title coming from the Contentful as from Contentful backend, and you remember I had a title, but what I didn't have is this here. So what happened is with this block plugins. So sometimes I have a lot of these standard blocks, and I want to somehow extend them. I don't want to create a lot of custom blocks. For example, I could have a grid, and then for some reason I want a title on the grid. So it doesn't matter to duplicate the whole functionality of the grid block and then just to add one parameter, right? So that's why we invented something which is called a block plugin. This is a piece of code that creates this parameter here, and it's plugged into this type of the block. So in this case, it's the Contentful entry field block. You can create a block plugin that can be used in all blocks or in certain types of blocks. So let's quickly go to this code, so that we should have something like a block plugin, HTML element plugin. So what I wanted is, when I render this title or this string field, I don't have this information in Contentful. What kind of string is that? Is this a header, or is this a string, or is this what is that? I don't have it. It's just a piece of information. So what I added.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Has anyone seen this before? I mean not this specific code, but the way this works.
This is true as well.
Does it seem familiar? Okay, so what is it? Form extension, exactly. So this is basically, it reuses the concepts of form extensions. So blocks reuse the concepts of Symfony forms to build the parameters, and block plugin reuses the concepts of Symfony form extensions. So it should be pretty much familiar to any Symfony developer.
Yeah. So this is what we tried to use with layouts. We tried to really leverage a lot of Symfony stuff, so we don't invent stuff, we just reuse them. So in this case, this is what I put here. I said, this is a plugin for the entry field handler, the Contentful entry field handler. I could add here, show me this plugin in, I don't know, the title block or the grid block or whatever.
You can put an interface there and say, okay, it extends every block that implements that interface.
Yeah. And what I wanted is just to render this field in several ways, and in this case it's div, span, paragraph, h1 to h3. And if I go here, these are the elements. So what happens if I choose h1, which I actually wanted, and if I publish, and if I go to the front end, so again, so I will get a bigger header, because I also have, this is also important, I have a template which uses this. That should be this template. So I also overridden the contentful entry field, and if you see, this is actually what is happening here. So I'm just using the element variable, which is coming from the drop-down I chose, and of course I defaulted to div, because div is...
It's on the line 3 there at the top.
So I just take the block parameter element and render it. Okay, does it make sense? Not too difficult? Okay. So this is the idea was that to show that you can plug in features in one, many, or all blocks without needing to customize a lot of blocks. Okay? Let's do one more. So what I would just like to do is so what happens if you have content types? Sometimes you want different templates based on the content types. For example, the items I have. So what we will do, we will quickly check out the step 4. So let's see what happened there. I also need to remember myself. Just a sec. So let's see what was the last commit. So this is what happened. So I have a configuration, basically only configuration. We also needed to do the app extension and adding something to the kernel, the register extension, etc. All of this was because we needed to override the priority for this kind of configuration. So this is less important. What is important is that I now have 3 different templates. So I have a category template, item view category template, item view course, and item view lesson, and this lesson is different. It's not simple, just the name and the URL. It also has the image. So this is like Contentful twig, let's say, feature is that you can have a item. This is our item, and the object is actually the Contentful entry PHP SDK object, and then it has a get image function to get the image, etc. Okay, so it's very simple. And then in the configuration, we say, okay, we have so actually not this one, this one, item view. So we have a Contentful entry course template, and it's matching the Contentful content type course. Okay? And with all that, what I get is that when I refresh this, something will happen, I don't know what. Okay, this looks different. I'm not sure if there is an image in that, but definitely using, and we can check that, it's using a different template. So I can see rendered blocks, and then I can see that, actually I didn't manage to do that, I don't know why. Maybe caches? Let's try to clear the caches. When you are in doubt, clear the cache. Cache clear, as usual. Let's see. That's the time. 12 more minutes. Okay, so let's... Maybe I missed something or whatever, but I hope you get the point. No, not this one. Just a second. Course. No, I didn't manage to override it for some reason, but I don't have much time to go into this. But the idea was, of course, that I get a bit more information about the lesson in the item view, okay? Maybe it will work after the next step. We'll see. So this was that. Okay, and then yeah, I would say as a final step is to do a bit of fun with the conditions. So if you remember, we were talking about conditioning the mapping. So what I will do is, what I want is that I make another home page just for my local users. So how would I do that? You can first get the step number 5, and this I will say what it did. So I will show you here. So I have let me remember, a layout condition, a new condition type, which has its own form. But what it does is very simple. So I have a condition type which has its own identifier, and it does this, which is very simple and stupid, but still just for the showcase. So I have a range which I will set as a parameter. I will get a client IP from Symfony request, and then I will just go through that, and I will expect it's a regular expression to match. Okay, that's very, very simple. It's not maybe something that you will use in production, but yeah, good enough for the demo. So let's go to here. So what you need to do is create quickly another home page, or actually there's a better way. Let's do it like this. So not taking a new. It's slow because I cleared caches, and then the whole service container cache also went away. So what we can do is we have a home number 2. Let's just duplicate this layout and name it home number 2 local. Okay, so it's home number 2 local, and I will do something there like, I don't know, I could remove the header for some reason, or like this. I don't need the header for local users. Maybe I will change it and say my demo for local, and I will publish this. So now I need to create a mapping for that. So I go to mappings, and I want to create a new mapping. I will select the layout I just created, this one. And then what I will do is I will add a condition. First I need to specify that it's for the home page. So it's the home page URL. And then I have several conditions, like I showed maybe earlier. I have built-in query parameter, root parameter, time, actually, time range, etc. But this is what I actually implemented, IP address ranges. And then what I do is I add the condition. It's a regular expression, so it should be something like this. Let me just... No, it's with a slash. I just want to... how do you increase the size in here? Yes. Okay, so 127. Yeah, I can do it like this, of course. It's a regex for IP addresses, so try to do something. And then I will save this. So this is my mapping. I will go to my home. I still see the old layout. Do you know why? Anyone knows why? Nobody? I need to put it before this mapping. So I have this reorder mappings, and I need to put it above, otherwise this one will always be hit. So I save the order, And now this one is the first one. It's more specific than the more general one. So if I go, okay. So this is my demo folder. Why? Because of course I'm on localhost, so my IP starts with 127. Okay. This is what I had time to, actually it's 5 more minutes, so this is what I can show you much more. But let's get back to the slides. Yeah, what else can you do? You can do a lot of things like, what is this doing to me? You can do a lot of additional extension points. We covered some of them. So of course, you can do custom blocks, whatever you like. You can do custom layout types. What I didn't also show you when we were adding the block view, actually it's even easier way to do this because we have themes. So you can just create a theme and then place blocks in a defined folders, and they will be chosen. So you don't need YAML configuration for that. Custom URL target types and some more. I will not go into too many details. You have it's open source. Not completely all features are open source. We have a couple of features still in the commercial version, but what we worked at the moment was all the features I show. It's all open source. There is documentation.
MIT license.
Yeah, the MIT license on the open source. I have some webinars on this, not on YouTube.com, but that's a link to something, but it's long, so I didn't. I will show you and share you the slides. Just to show you one more thing before a couple of questions, and you can catch me later today when we are on the beach swimming. I also answer questions about layouts then. So this is our demo site, which uses not Contentful but easy platform and layouts and many other things. So this is like a small portal we did using a lot of different kinds of components, etc. It has a home page, it has category pages, it has article pages, just to show a bit the combinations. And it has, when you go into the backend, I'm already logged in, so didn't ask me to log in. This is our kind of easy CMS interface, but when I go to layouts, I actually see the same interface. This is the enterprise version, which means it has a bit more features. One of the things is the roles and policies, so that's a commercial part where it's about who can do what. If I open the home page, you will see much more complex layout, rendering the home page. You see a lot of things. Also in the commercial version is that you can do, if I have, for example, this block and it fetches latest 3 something, what I can do is I can do a configure cache, and I can set a TTL, for example, for 10 minutes, and this will be used by a reverse proxy to cache the block independently from the rest of the page. Yeah, this is ESI. If you know ESI, you will figure it out. We also have some translations. How do you translate layout? Change the layout type. I don't have time for that. We also have, for example, I need to show a manual block, just a second. So what we can also do in the commercial version is to configure, for example, the visibility, so I can schedule that this item is visible from this time until that time, and things like that. So that's the commercial part, but the core part is open source. So we have like 2 minutes for questions. So finally, who will do the first question? I will buy him a beer later. I know that will do the trick.
Do you have additional blocks or just layout?
So
Can I show some block only for logged in user or some, I don't know, local users?
So you can, of course, have your block implemented as you wish. right? But what you can do is you can have a different layout for internal users, and then you have a, we implemented something like that, but it's not in the open source yet. So it's a condition based on user groups, so that you can say this layout show me only to this user Symfony user group. That's quite simple to implement.
I think
Yeah.
at this point is in that case you need to repeat. For example, if a layout has 10 blocks, you need to repeat 9 blocks just to justify or show the one that's left.
Well, there are several ways how, I mean, you can have then shared blocks.
Currently, you would be able to do that in a twig template. So, and if a twig template evaluates somehow that the block should be shown, then just show the rendered template. If not,
Or not.
render an empty
Yeah.
an empty page, and that's it.
What about meta text?
Sorry.
And what about meta text? I see that you have a title there.
So, I just want to show you one more thing relating to that. So, let me show you the base template. So, this is the base template that is in the system. This is an important part. So, here we say whatever layout renders, put it here. So, what is here, we don't care. This is up to you. Right? So this is where we put in the result. Okay. If you go to the homepage template, you will actually see it's empty. It just extends the ng layouts rendering engine. And if you would like to disable everything, you would just extend the base HTML twig. Okay, so what for your question, the meta tags is something that you need to worry about here. You could fetch them somehow from the request, or from you have the context of the page. You can get the content object that is being rendered, and then from that, using Contentful PHP SDK, get the slug or get somehow the title, and put the title in the meta tag.
So I need to fetch the key.
You probably have it in your controller, because you have still the controller. So the controller is somewhere here. You have your homepage controller. Now here you can do whatever you like in any Symfony controller. Okay? We can discuss it later. Any more questions?
Is there a way to make a more seamless integration with Contentful? Like you need to go on Contentful, get the key of that field, and then
Yes, So I agree. So for example, like I said, this is for demo. So you would use the Contentful entry field type, and then add the drop downs, which are fetching all the classes and all the identifiers. Of course, yes. Make a drop down. So right. Yeah, this should be easy to do. Yeah. I think we are 3 minutes behind, so I will now close it, but we can later discuss on the beach. Thank you.